Aye, it's that time again. What time? Hammer time! A warm welcome from me, Ben Taylorson. I am your host this time around, as we grab hold of the crowbar of criticism, prise open another door in our house of cinematic wonders, push Kevin first so he can find the light switch and check for rats and demons, and then have a good mooch about inside. And now that indeed Kev has cleared the room of rodents, chanted a healing mantra and sprinkled sanctified incense about, well, he said it was incense anyway, we're ready to talk about this film. Which film? Well, today we're taking a look at Hammer's 1954 crime drama noir thing, 5 Days. Directed by Montgomery Tully, it stars Dane Clark, Paul Carpenter, Thea Gregory and Anthony Forwood. It was shot at Bray Studios as a second picture for release on a double bill. It was released in the United States by Lippert Pictures as Paid to Kill. Though we've agreed a combination of the UK and US titles, 5 Days to Kill, would probably make a better title than both the ones they went with. Going back to the cast, you may have noticed some familiar names. Paul Carpenter popped up in the last film we covered, playing a talented piano player and a one-time circus marksman. This is the 4th time we've seen Anthony Forwood crop up in an early Hammer film. There's also a mute supporting appearance in this from Charles Hawtrey, who we last saw in Room to Let. And then there's our leading man, Dane Clark. We last saw him in Gambler and the Lady, and the character he's portraying here is somewhat similar. We'll be seeing him again when we get to Murder by Proxy. As he's a 3-time Hammer leading man, it only seems fair to take a closer look at his life and career. And here to do that is Kev.
The September 1946 edition of Movie Life magazine dubbed him the most stylish actor in Hollywood. Despite this, Brooklyn-born Bernard Zanville, who went by the stage name of Dane Clark, gave himself the somewhat unfortunate nickname during his Warner Brothers years of Joe Average. He said the studio didn't go much for the pretty boy type, and an average guy like himself had much more chance to get someplace. This could be why he was able to achieve such an impressive career on film, TV, radio and Broadway as one of the first that guys. That guys are the actors that never exactly set the world on fire, but you know you've seen them in something, and you more than likely have, because their filmography is longer than an epic by Cecil B. DeMille. He was the son of Russian-Jewish immigrants Rose Korostoff and Samuel Zanville. Samuel owned a sporting goods shop, which meant he could afford the best education for his son a New York City boy could expect. And the hard work paid off. He graduated from Cornell University and St. John's Law School in Brooklyn. The timing of his graduation was probably not the best though. America was still in the thick of the Great Depression, so despite having an abundance of qualifications, he really had trouble finding work, and he ended up seeing himself take jobs wherever he could, whether it be on construction sites, boxing, playing semi-pro baseball, or even, despite his self-proclaimed take on his looks, end up modelling for a sculptress in New York, just to make ends meet. It was this job, where he'd posed as a prizefighter, that brought him into contact with people in the arts. Most notably, John Garfield, who set him up with his first audition, as well as becoming a lifelong friend. He decided to try it for himself, just to prove that anybody could do it, and with that, his glittering stage career was born. Clark's early work was with the Group Theatre in New York City, and from there, he would quickly move to larger-scale Broadway productions. He'd find himself acting alongside Dan Daria, the man with the unpronounceable name, in Dead End for an incredible 687 performances. A few of the cast would go on to reprise their roles in the 1937 film of the same name, alongside Sylvia Sidney, Joel McRae and Humphrey Bogart. But Bernard Zanville and Dan the Unpronounceable would have to work a bit harder. After Dead End, Stage Door and Of Mice and Men, Bernard Zanville finally broke into Hollywood. He acted under his own name until 1943 when, during filming of Action in the North Atlantic for Warner Brothers, he ended up working with Bogart, who gave him the name Dane Clark. His that guy status saw him regularly crop up in a healthy amount of conflicts as Warner Brothers went into war movie overdrive as part of the effort. Things were going well for Dane Clark. During his time at Warner Brothers, his star was on the ascendant. He occasionally worked on radio for the Lux Theatre and in episodes of Suspense. He could be seen regularly rubbing shoulders with Hollywood royalty, and his marriage to the Texas-born artist Margaret Yoder was quite something, as this was to be her fourth and final, lasting 24 years, even though Clark himself claimed to have proposed to somebody we're already familiar with here at the House of Hammer, Ida Lupino. They met during the filming of 1947's Deep Valley, to which she accepted.
We were stars of I forget the name of the film, and we related very well to each other as actor and actress, and we got to know each other very well. And there was warmth there, and finally what is interpreted as love. And I proposed, and she said yes, and then I met her family. And that was a shocking thing. No, she was hooked up with that family, and they all were leeches on her, sisters and mother and all that, and it was a very unhappy situation, the Lupino family. But she was the class of the act. Great actress, a great lady.
Needless to say, he was going a little bit off the rails, and despite being given a 1948 Buick Roadmaster by Jack Warner for his birthday, and after a successful run as a contract player, this would also turn out to be his final year with the studio after starring in Whiplash. Following a run-in with the aforementioned Jack Warner, Clark found himself getting work in Hollywood difficult for quite a while. Outside of the studio system wasn't impossible, but Clark's need to eat saw him taking whatever jobs he could get. Some would say that this was where his career became interesting. Dane Clark was classic Hollywood through and through, so for Hammer to land a star that was far from faded was a genuine coup, although his hard-headedness wouldn't work so well for him here either. Jimmy Sangster worked with him on 5 days and said, "This was his third film for Hammer, but the first one I worked on with him. A very good actor, but a real pain in the neck to deal with on almost every level." While working on Murder by Proxy, the script supervisor, Renee Glynn, had to be removed from his eyeline, and after some shots, he'd even have to put his head under cold water, just because he was so enraged that she was even there. This baffled Glynn, as they'd worked quite well together before on The Gambler and the Lady. 5 days would end up being released after Murder by Proxy, but this probably wasn't his fault. After leaving Warner Brothers, for the most part, his focus moved to television, which would luckily see him barely out of work until the late 80s, and on the 2nd of August 1960, his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame was unveiled. Ironically, this star was for his work on the small screen rather than anywhere else. But the name of Dane Clark still had some cachet, and as late as 1996, director James Cameron called Clark at his California home asking if he'd be interested in coming out of retirement to star as Captain Edward John Smith in Titanic. Unfortunately, he had to decline the offer based on health issues. He lived out his twilight years in California with his second wife, Geraldine, who'd known him most of her life. This was after Margaret had died of a short illness in 1970, and the Clark's home remained decorated with all of her paintings for the rest of his days, as Dane Clark, like so many men of his generation, succumbed to lung cancer at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica on September the 11th, 1998. His work for Hammer Films may have been brief, and the films themselves fairly unremarkable, but thanks to the help of Dane Clark's star power, the all-important box office receipts were far better than the critical reception, something the studio was and would remain accustomed to.
Right, so this film then. Dane Clark plays James Nevill, Jim to his friends, who is the man assigned to run the company Amalgamated Industries. Jim is on the verge of securing the deal of a lifetime, one he's been working on for years. However, his obsession with work has put his marriage in a precarious position, and to make things worse, unfortunately, his investor looks like he's about to pull out of the deal and ruin all that Jim has been working towards all these years.
Now look here, Jim.
Oh, Cyrus, you got my letters and cables?
Got them? Of course I got them.
Well, what about it?
What about what?
Well, didn't you read them?
I was busy.
What kind of talk is that? What do you mean you were busy?
I was busy. I'm still busy.
Look, don't give me that. 6 months ago in Paris, you and I shook hands on a deal. You told me to go ahead.
So?
What do you mean, so? I did go ahead. I bought the option. I got tons of material waiting in a dozen ports to be shipped. All of which I got on your assurances. What am I going to do with those commitments?
Oh, we'll talk about that some other time.
Cyrus, you can't do this to me.
Don't tell me what I can't do.
Look, I've got to have your answer now.
Not now, Jim.
Cyrus, I'm in a jam. I'm in a big jam. I've got to know now.
All right, if you want my answer, it's no.
Look, don't joke with me, Cyrus. Please, this is no time for jokes.
Can't you understand plain English? It's no.
Why, you dirty double-crossing...
Don't you shout at me, you young whippersnapper. I'll not be told what to do by you or anybody else. I am not interested, and that's final.
So with would-be investor Cyrus McGowan now seemingly out of the picture, Jim is facing personal, financial and reputational ruin. Tired and stressed, Jim sees this devastating development as the end. Keen to secure his wife's financial future, he rules out suicide, as that would mean she wouldn't get the life insurance. Instead, he plots a different end. He's going to hire a hitman to kill him. And to carry out this task, he seeks out an old business associate named Paul Kirby, with whom he seems to have a somewhat rocky relationship. He offers Paul £1,000 and an airtight alibi if he'll kill him in the next 5 days. Paul isn't too keen, however, fearing the hangman's noose if it all goes a bit wrong.
There's a great many people involved. People who are going to be hurt. People who trusted me.
Sounds desperate. Who is it I have to kill?
Me.
Oh, that's rich. You should be writing fairy tales, not managing Amalgamated Industries. But you had me worried there for a minute, Jimmy boy. I thought this was all true. Oh, that's wonderful.
Don't laugh at me. Don't you ever laugh at me. Listen. For the sake of the past, I've taken your sponging and your chiseling and your cheap little tricks. Now you're going to pay me back for some of that.
You're mad.
I don't mind my name being dragged through the mud, but Andrea's going to be safe. I got enough insurance for that. At least with her, I'll leave a clean balance sheet.
You're mad.
Get this through your thick skull. You're going to do it, and I mean it.
I won't do it. I can't do it, Jim. Don't ask me.
I'm not asking you. I'm telling you.
But surely, Jimmy, you can't mean it. We've been friends for so long. The things we've been through together. Don't you remember?
I remember. Maybe you've forgotten. Maybe you need a little reminding.
Whatever Paul's forgotten, you can remind him of it later.
So to summarise, Jim is hiring Bill to kill him. A man arranging his own assassination? This has got to be quite a unique plot for 1954, you might think. I did. But no, this is really a combination of two longer-standing tropes. The Death Seeker, being someone who has run out of options and now feels they have no choice but to embrace death, and the I cannot self-terminate trope, someone who wishes death, but for whatever reason cannot perform the act themselves. The earliest example I could find of a tale where someone arranges their own assassination is Jules Verne's 1879 adventure The Tribulations of a Chinese in China. It concerns Kin Fo, a rich young Chinese man who is indifferent to everything and does not know happiness. One day he finds himself ruined, his American bank having gone bankrupt. So not wanting to impose a miserable life on his future wife, he prefers to die. That sounds remarkably familiar, no? There are several examples of the same or similar plot devices being used on the big screen. These include 1924's Hotel Potemkin, 1931's The Man in Search of His Murderer, a 1965 adaptation of The Tribulations of a Chinese in China, 1990's I Hired a Contract Killer, 1998's Bulworth, 2008's Downloading Nancy, and 2018's Dead in a Week or Your Money Back. Now, there's one thing that a lot of these films have in common, and this brings us back to the film which is the subject of this episode. What happens if your circumstances suddenly and unexpectedly improve after you've arranged your own assassination? Well, that's exactly what happens to Jim when he hears that his investor is back on board and the business deal of a lifetime is now set to go ahead.
Come in, Pete. I had to come and congratulate you once more. Did you see Hyson's face? I thought he was going to have a fit. Look, old boy.
Oh, just a minute. Joan, call Paul Kirby.
Kirby?
Yes, Kirby. Now find him. This is important. Tell him the deal is off. And make it very clear, the deal is off.
Yes.
Look, Jim, about tonight,
Later, Pete. I'm going out now and buy Andrea a present.
But listen,
Later,
Jim,
later.
I want...
Joan, remember, Kirby, the deal is off.
Jim,
See
I
you,
got...
Pete.
So all of a sudden Jim has a lot to live for. But can he get in touch with his would-be assassin in time to stop the seemingly inevitable? Also, can he repair his marriage, which now seems irreparably damaged by his obsession with work? Well, things take something of a complicated turn when it turns out the assassin Jim has recruited may not be the only one who is ready to kill him. All sounds a pretty good setup, but what do we think of it? Well, let's head over to the round table where I'm joined, as ever, by Smokey and Kev.
Okay, 5 days, or Paid to Kill in America, which comes with quite a snazzy opening sequence. Any thoughts on this, Smokey?
I liked the opening. It was good. It was something a little bit different, a little bit more inventive. Beautiful font for Mr. Roach. But it was nice. It was just a shame that the film started with introducing us to many dislikable characters. We move from an office to somewhere abroad to another office, and it's just populated with really unlikable people, and that really set me off on the wrong foot with this film.
An international bevy of unlikable characters, actually, including Cyrus McTavish in Mexico.
McGowan.
I'm sticking with McTavish. I know it's not. Ben?
I liked the opening. I did, unfortunately, mistake the calendar. There's a calendar backdrop that we opened to because of the title 5 Days, but I was forgetting it was called that because I was only using the American title, and I thought it was a bingo game, and I thought, ooh, bingo! Then I realised it was the calendar, and there isn't any bingo, which is quite disappointing. But yes, as you say, a host of unlikable characters, one of which is in Mexico. Well, not really. Is in front of a beautiful matte background, not being in England rather than Mexico. But yes, grave robbing with Charles Hawtrey. It sounds like something that should be on, like, History or Discover, further down the Freeview channels. Grave robbing with Charles Hawtrey.
It's just next to Monkey Tennis. Actually, it's only just clicked that we're starting to actually see quite a healthy budget here, because you've got scenes in this where Jim goes to an airport, and he actually goes to an airport, and it's only for one scene. It's not like they use it multiple times. You've got the whole typing pool at the office, which most of the action takes place in the office, but then that leads through to a boardroom, and you've got extras in the typing pool, you've got extras in the boardroom, and it's a through set as well, so it's quite large. And then you think back to about 5 years ago, and we had River Patrol, which had what looked like a office in a toilet, or an office in a toilet of an Oxfam shop, one of the two.
What was the other film that we were in an airport for a bit? Was it Whispering Smith? I'm just wondering if it was the same airport that they used for this, because you think about it, it did look kind of similar. Yeah, that would be interesting to look up.
Any other Oxfam moments that you can think of?
Well, not in this, because as you say, it's quite the budget stretches to it allows them to go real places. There's that road where everyone always gets run over that they go back to.
The one in Windsor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a Turkish bath, which might or might not be an actual Turkish bath, but it looks quite convincing.
Yeah.
There's a big orangery or a big fancy greenhouse at the end that again looks looks like a National Trust property to me. So, you know, there's plenty going on. We get out and about, as you say. We're not in a room that's pretending to be a boat like we were, you know, sort of 6 or 8 months ago.
Good point, yeah.
It's true. You've got to give a little bit of credit, I think, to the art department or the locations department, because, as you say, it seems like they're up in their game. I mean, don't forget, you know, for all its faults in the last episode, we were in the Palladium for quite a while, so that was kind of cool. You know, that had the budgetary value that you kind of want to see. Oh, and as I said, don't forget the park we were in, watching the live music and the scene where Jim thinks he's about to be done in, and he's not. He's just a bloke waiting for his son to turn up, which I thought was kind of good.
Yeah. Actually, thinking about it, you've got a whole brass band concert, and then you've got a whole crowd.
There's no brass band there. You never see the brass band. It's just being piped in.
Oh. Cunning.
Exactly, yeah. But it's the illusion of a brass band.
The magic of cinema.
Exactly, yes, exactly. Beautiful. You come out feeling as though you've seen an actual brass band.
Sorry, can I just interject now? Sorry, you have just reminded me, because I saw it in the credits and I completely forgot, is that they do have a continuity coordinator on this film. And I noticed the name, and the name is Splinters Deason. And I just think anyone's first name is Splinters.
There's got to be a story behind that name, is all I'm saying.
It's got to be.
The reason that Splinters is given the job of continuity on this particular film is because Renee Glynn, the regular continuity woman, would refuse to actually be on the same set as Dane Clark after the filming on the previous film because he was such an arsehole to her that he reduced her to tears, and she refused point blank to work again with him.
Well, then I hate him even more now.
He did apologise afterwards and realised his fault.
Oh, I read that story. Is that the one where he dropped to his knees and begged her for forgiveness?
That's the one.
Ah, okay, right, that's her. Oh, okay, right. Oh,
yeah.
That makes a lot more sense.
So that's why you got Splinters. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, anything that gives me splinters.
Well, before we move on from Splinters, I will say I did notice one quite a pretty bad moment of a lack of continuity where Paul, the would-be assassin of Jim, is having a coffee in a bar. And as the shot cuts from one angle to another, that coffee goes up and down like a bride's nightie, is all I'm saying.
I think we should probably focus on Dane Clark a little bit. As we said, he's unlikable, and that's a real problem with this, because he has one moment of genuine happiness in this film where he's complimenting ladies' hair, and he gives his secretary Joan a bit of a twirl and a bit of a hug, but it lasts about a minute, and then he just returns to his miserable, annoying self
I will
again.
give Dane Clark a little bit of a buy, but not much of a buy. The way in which the character is written means that he has to do some unlikable things in order for the ending to make sense, because basically the ending revolves around someone having a vendetta against him for a reason. It could have been done with a much defter touch, and it could have been done in a much more nuanced way, in that you could see these unlikable traits in a man that you're still happy to get behind. Unfortunately, I think, from what I can tell, the three of us have spent most of the film really not liking Jim, the main character, and really not being that bothered about what happens to him. I mean, even in the scene that you mentioned, Smokey, there's where he has his moment of levity, and we think, oh, look, this is what he's like when he's happy. He still manages to mistreat his secretary by sort of building up her hopes when he says, oh, what would you like most in the world? Oh, but then go out and buy it for my wife. Which, out of spite, I hope she went out and bought, sort of a soldering iron or some, washing pegs, or, maybe a new sponge.
MIG welder.
Or something, But yeah, it's hard to champion his cause, which the film really relies on.
Joan!
So Nevill.
That old devil, you know why he came here, don't you?
I tell you everything was all right, I
No,
suppose.
that was only part of it. He wanted to apologize in his own way, the cockeyed, cantankerous, amazing, lovable old buzzard.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Call Parker at the Trust Bank. I want to see him tomorrow. And flowers. I want lots of flowers. Send them to Andrea. I want the whole house covered with flowers. And Joan, what would you like best in the whole world? If you could buy anything you want, what would you get?
Well, I think...
Whatever it is, you get it and send it to Mrs. Neville.
Yes, Mr. Nevill.
It's a really good scene, that, as well, because this is where you see Cecile Chevreau really playing her role to the nines, if you like. You can see her expression. She sort of goes, oh, Oh, hang on. No, it's not for me at all.
It is quite
But
heartbreaking.
you can see how she's looking at Jim, and you think, why? I don't get why she adores Jim at all.
No, it's not easy to comprehend because he does nothing but basically abuse her the whole way through. He's unpleasant to everyone around him. He's not a lovable man in the slightest.
No, the only time you see him actually elated is not because it's anything going right in his personal life. It's just because suddenly he's going to come into a lot of money. So he's basically driven by money and nothing else.
Pretty much, yeah.
What I would say, kind of to support everything that we've just said here, is there's a scene, I don't know, about halfway through the film where Jim gets shot. And I thought he got killed, and I was like, "Oh, brilliant! This film might pick up some speed in the right direction now." But unfortunately, the bullet just wings him, and he survives.
Yeah, that's true. What a great actress Cecile Chevreau is, because we've literally just seen her in Spaceways, and she was a horrible, the most horrible harpy we've seen in a Hammer film yet.
For a long time.
Yeah, since the Rossiter case, I think we said, but yeah, no, we now get her in a wonderful role. I think she for me is the best thing in this, and she plays Joan, the secretary, with just the right amount of sympathy for us to all be on her side.
Yeah.
Because we want Joan to succeed, because she's obviously very good at her job. She's strangely in love with a complete dick, but hey ho, you can't help who you fall in love with, can you? But no, and I've got to say, who knew she had that range? Because going from Spaceways to this is night and day, and she's absolutely wonderful.
She's had quite the career as well, because if you start looking through her IMDb listing, it kind of peters off at the early 60s, and she doesn't do a great deal as far as film work. It tends to go into TV roles, and then suddenly in the late 70s she turns up as the voice of Buddha in Monkey, the Toho TV series.
That's stunning.
Do you know me? Everything is within this, and this is within everything. I am Tathagata Buddha.
I always thought you were a fella.
That's range.
It's remarkable.
Well, going back to Jim and the vendetta against him, we've all said how unlikable he is. What did you think to him as far as being a likely target? Would you have actually gone less than £1,000 to kill him?
That's an interesting question, Kev. I don't think what's £1,000 in 1954? I'd
Yacht.
probably have to get the calculator out and work it out.
Yeah.
It's an interesting sort of plot, but it's not original, as I've already mentioned in the sort of introduction to this. There have been many different films that basically use the same device. But in answer to your question, I don't know. If I knew Jim, I'd probably take £1,000 to shoot him in the back. If I had my airtight alibi, as is being offered.
It's only a pity he's awake.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's only a pity that Paul's just such a terrible shot that he shoots him point blank in the head and still misses.
Well, or was it Paul?
Well, yes, this is it. Yeah, we'll find that out a bit later, won't we? But there is that interesting part of that, though, which is that he says, right, I'm going to give you $1,000 if you kill me. Here's 500 now, and here's 500 after you complete the job. It's like, hang on, you'll be dead. Who the hell is there to give you the extra 500 quid?
I had to go back about this because obviously there's the whole blackmail subplot where you've got Jim blackmailing Paul. Now, I think he's actually leaving the other 500 with his solicitor that has all the dirt on Paul.
Yeah.
Which isn't emphatically explained, but it does make sense when you actually hear what Jim's going to say.
It does.
I think it gets a bit lost in translation, and you do have to watch it a couple of times before it does start to make any kind of sense. But yeah, it's an interesting plot device.
Yeah. Yeah, to promise someone 500 quid when you're dead is
yeah. But then that could be just Jim being really tight again, so you don't know.
That's true. Yeah. Well, he is motivated by money, so.
Yeah, true. I feel like we've missed a whole sequence here where Jim goes about his day quite normally while Paul goes full on Wile E. Coyote in the background with all manner of different Acme devices.
Well, see, Kev, that's the film I wanted to watch. I wanted to see, basically, Roadrunner. being attempted to be like killed, because he basically the killer goes for a gun first and somehow misses at point blank range, as we've mentioned. And then you'd think, all right, okay, I've cocked that up, so maybe some stabbing, bit of strangulation, maybe a poisoning. I'll just push him off something. No, we go for something really from left field, which is the desk bomb. Now, blackmail. But blackmail may be on the House of Hammer bingo card, but I feel that the desk bomb should join it, along with its own song, which would be desk bomb, it's a desk bomb. It can do it to Jim now. The shooting went all wrong.
But also, don't forget that he also gets he almost gets run over as well. So I mean, there are several.
I've forgotten about the running over.
But I think you're absolutely right. Oh, can you imagine, right, mate? Oh, this just come to me. Do the setup in the first 10 minutes and then make the next hour just a series of ridiculous ways of trying to kill Jim. Drop a piano out.
There's
a
film.
Here's an anvil. Here's a manhole cover that's been suspiciously left open. Oh my God, there are so many ideas.
Isn't that a Pink Panther film?
Pretty much, yeah. Or it's just that bit in Who Framed Roger Rabbit when he goes into Toontown and there's so many things that are trying to kill him. I was like, this is brilliant. Oh, better film.
I'd have paid good money if Paul had pulled out the singing sword, that's all I'm saying.
It's strictly taboo.
Maybe Dane Clark's got a really dour expression on his face because he knows that he's got to go down the same street in Windsor that he was killed in the last film.
Oh, yeah, he did actually die at the end of that film as well, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
At the beginning and the end.
Well,
it's got PTSD.
Yeah.
Flash forward, yeah. Oh, you poor Dane Clark. All right, I've got a bit more sympathy with him now.
I love the fact that the police force spring into action as well after the desk bomb and send what is obviously one hell of an expert, because they send one bloke.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, I think we need to add... I mean, this has got to go on a bingo card, hasn't it, under incompetent police, because they send one... And he gets shot down, but not literally, but he gets verbally shot down by Dane Clark, sort of saying, well, do you have any information? He goes, no, don't want to talk to you. And he goes, oh, all right then. And he leaves. So, as you said, there's been a explosive in his desk. And he just goes, oh, okay, you don't want to talk.
He's destroyed the office.
What I wanted to hear from Jim was some, like, wacky excuses. Officer, what's happened here? Oh, sorry, whoopee cushion.
I told you, Inspector, I have nothing to say.
You realize, Mr. Nevill, that you have no right to refuse information to the police?
I'll be the best judge of that.
But you must admit that there's been an explosion. You can't deny that.
I admit nothing.
Oh, now, come, Mr. Nevill. What about you, Miss?
I have nothing.
Now, Miss Peterson,
I told you I have nothing.
Inspector, it is very late and we're both tired. We've been questioned for hours, first by the constable and now by you, and I suggest we terminate this interview.
All right.
Before we go into spoiler territory then, did either of you figure out who was going to run Jim down? Because the suspects we have are Hyson, Peter, Eileen, Paul and Andrea, which to me sounds like a bad 60s band for a start.
I'm trying to remember who all these people are.
The Dane Clark 5.
Hey, yes!
I've peaked.
Oh, you're just glad all over with that one, aren't you?
I'm not going to wait around here like a sitting duck to be picked off at their leisure. At least I'm sure of one thing. Whoever did this is someone very close to me.
As we've already alluded to, the final scenes take place in what looks like a corner of Kew Gardens, to be honest. And we've got the final reveal where Jim is looking very put out about his wife turning on him, and her obvious man on the side is armed and ready to shoot somebody within 30 seconds of being told to shoot somebody, if you're lucky.
Something I wanted to ask you, lads, actually, which I meant to earlier and I completely forgot, which is Thea Gregory, who plays Andrea, his wife. She kind of switches throughout the film from sort of doting wife. I mean, she even mentions to someone else that, oh, no, I'm just a domesticated bride type thing. And, but then she's, you know, as we're going into spoiler territory, she switches into a complete mega killer bitch. And, What do you think? How did she handle that?
I didn't buy it at all. I thought it was really badly written. I thought she did what she had to do. I thought she was great in the early scenes, very believable as the doting wife. As her character began to change and she got frustrated with Jim, I could also buy that. But this turn at the end where she turns on him and says that she hates him, I'm not buying that at all.
No.
That's just come out of nowhere. And she becomes a completely different character for the last sort of 90 seconds before she gets shot.
or as you said in a different episode, she ran into a bullet.
Exactly, yes. Officer.
Yeah. There is an allusion to whereabouts her character's going halfway through when Jim actually comes home and catches her on her way out with Peter to the concert. And when Jim actually gives her a big hug, she kind of rolls her eyes. Did you spot that?
Yeah, it's quite subtle, but yes. But I thought that could be... Because in fairness, Peter's there in that scene because Jim's asked him to be. And she could at that point be rolling her eyes just because she's annoyed with him. But yes, I take the point, Kev. There is the hints of discontent earlier on in the film. I'm just pleased that she went for Peter, not that guy whose head looks like a light bulb.
Yeah, I know what you mean as well. We should really point out, gentlemen, that Mr. Anthony Forward, who plays Peter, he's been with us for a very long time now with Hammer, all the way back to 1949 was his earliest appearance with us, which was in Meet Simon Cherry, Kev's favourite. Yeah. And this is his last appearance in a Hammer film. And it's been nice to see him pop up every now and again, because he's good at what he does. Granted, he's saddled with very similar characters every now and again. But I think we should highlight that and say thank you to Mr. Forward for giving us a lot of entertainment over the last year or so.
Yes. Hi, Hazel, to Anthony Forward for playing the heel.
Indeed, hi, Hazel.
Absolutely. Hi, Hazel, to Anthony Forward.
What I would say in this film as well is I think he's really good. I think he plays that sort of a character that you feel the whole way through you can't really trust, but you don't know why, because he does nothing but nice things really until this turn at the end. And his turn is that bit more believable, I think. But, largely due to the writing. It's nothing to do. I'm no reflection, on Thea Gregory in comparison. I just think his character is sort of given less to do in the rest of the film, which makes his turnaround at the end more believable. What I would say as well about Anthony Forward is that there's a lot of smoking in these films, but he has a particularly elegant way of consuming a cigarette, if that's what you do with cigarettes. It makes it sound like he eats them. I don't mean that.
It depends how good you are at it.
What, eating cigarettes? Are you going to join the circus as a man who eats cigarettes?
Been there, done that. But his turnaround at the end is much more believable, and it's a lot better written than it is for Andrea. And also, he has a great line towards the end, which, he's got a gun trained on Jim, and, Andrea's saying, no, shoot him. He's just going, I'm really sorry, Jim. I did quite like you.
Yeah, but even when she says shoot him, it takes about 30 seconds to think about it first, and in that time you could have actually nicked out and put the kettle on at least.
He does take his time, bless him.
He's a lover, not a fighter, Kev.
But everybody's also a stander and not a mover.
Yeah, what do we think about the sort of the last sort of showdown, if you will?
It's a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a mess. I mean, it doesn't flow. I thought Paul's character had to die, and the fact he didn't really make any sense. And, then you got this sort of... Joan appears at the end and confesses her dying love for Jim, and you think, oh, okay, well, at least out of this tragedy now that, Anthea's lying cold on the floor, Joan and Jim will go off into the sunset and spend their life together. But no, even, sort of right at the end of the film when Jim somehow gets a beautiful woman that he doesn't deserve, he still, for some reason, has to pick up his dead wife as like the final insult to Joan and say, no, I'm bringing her inside out of the weird greenhouse. And you just think, oh, Jim, man,
weird.
What are you doing? You spent the whole film being a douche, now's your chance not to be, and you've blown it right at the end as well. So, yeah, although what I would say about Jim is I love the fact that there's basically a moment where he sort of commando-like getting ready for this conclusive gunfight in his office, and he's got his best smoking jacket on. That's what I'd where to a gunfight.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that. I mean, the ending was odd. As you say, kill Paul, that would make sense, because you've got your patsy there. That's how it should have gone. And then threaten to do away with Jim, and then suddenly Joan appears and scuppers their entire plan. That makes a lot more sense than what they did go for, which is that Jim suddenly turns into a WWF wrestler who decides he wants to put a sleeper hold on Peter. It lasts for so long.
Yeah, everything about this.
Yeah, and even though Paul says to him time after time after time, I've got the gun, you can stop. No, I've got the gun. And he just keeps going.
He doesn't even check his arm or anything to see if it's going to stay up on the third count, and he's going to Hulk his way back into the fight.
He's going to Hulk his way back out of it, yeah. But no, he doesn't. And then he just sort of kind of flippantly, nonchalantly says, oh, well, I'm glad I didn't kill you because now I can see you being hanged. It's like, well, you were just trying to strangle him a minute ago. I don't know. It was just a bit of a mess, the ending.
What did you think, Kev?
Well, I felt like the ending of this is all stilted and very badly staged, badly set up. Now, there's a bit where we see the boom mic in this particular scene.
Don't we just?
Don't we just? It puts in such an appearance. And for a while, we've been quite blessed with boom mic free films. So it's kind of making a showing and making it worth it this time. Yeah. I'm wondering whether they were having trouble actually recording the film, the audio, because when you don't see the boom mic in the shot, and you also can't see what one particular key character is shouting out as he's shooting Jim's wife.
True. I just think it was a big plant. I don't think it was a boom mic at all.
If we're being generous, as you both said, we're in a greenhouse type, orangery type thing. There's not a lot of space in there. I think we've got to give him a little bye here for a bit of equipment wandering into shot. So I'll let him off for that. What I won't let him off with is exactly what you said, Ben. That ridiculous, weird ending of going, oh, well, my wife's dead. So hang on, Joan. Even though you've told me you love me, I'm going to still tend to my dead wife now. I mean, that's just the strangest ending to a film.
Who 90 seconds ago was crying, shoot him to her lover. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's such a weird end.
Yeah, Jim obviously knows nothing about contaminating a murder scene either, does he? Let's face it.
We already know his disdain for the police, so he doesn't care, does he? So,
wrapping up then, before we get on to our conclusions and our scores out of 10, I asked earlier, before we started recording, if you've got any alternate titles for this, seeing as though we've got 5 days and Paid to Kill, why not have a couple more? Ben?
I've got 2, Kev, so I'd simply go for, firstly, The Unkillening, and secondly, owing to the fact that we're in a scenario where a man called Jim has arranged his own murder and then changes his mind and tries to sort it out himself, I've gone for Jim'll Fix It.
Oh,
no. Smokey.
Brilliant. I only came up with the one, but it's in any other context, it would sound like either a love song or the title of a rom-com. But I do like if it would be called Won't You Take Me Out Tonight?
Oh, very good. I came up with One-Sided Triangle, like a prequel.
That's just a line.
That's awesome. I love that.
The
well
anti-love rhombus.
Yeah.
And the other one was, is this 5 business days?
Do I get weekends and bank holidays?
Oh, do you know what? I can't pick between any of them. They're all brilliant.
Okay, Smokey, your rating out of 10 and thoughts.
This was a tricky one. I wasn't 100% sure what I'd watched the other night when I watched this for the first time, and then I watched it again today. I just keep going back to the thought that this is a silly, silly film, and I don't quite know what they were going for. I don't know. I'm going to rate this. I'm going to put this on a par with Face the Music. And as much as I dislike Face the Music, I think I actually probably enjoyed it a bit more than I enjoyed this. It's between a 3 and a 4 again. Go on, I'll be nice again. I'll give it a 4. But, Dane Clark is unlikable. Cecile Chevreau is great. But there's not much I can give to this apart from, few set pieces are all right. Yeah, it's a 4. It's below average. It's a shame because it's a really good premise. And this could be remade easily. But again, we'll come back to it. Is it memorable? No. I'll have forgotten this in a month or two. So yeah, it's a 4 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. Ben?
It's a clunk fest with an unlikable protagonist. And it almost at every turn, it did what I didn't want it to do, which was a shame. I mean, it's a competent film. It's obviously been made reasonably quickly. I say the acting's fine, apart from Dane Clark, because I just don't like the man in what the 2 films I've seen him in so far. And, the conclusion's a mess. And the one thing we haven't mentioned is even at 70 minutes, it outstays its welcome by at least 10 minutes.
It really does.
So, I'm going to agree with Smokey. I'm going to give it a 4. It's forgettable, and it's just not a good film. So, 4.
Well, I'm going to go somewhat different to your score then.
10?
3. It's a 3, and it's only a 3 because it's actually got some decent production design and production values on it. I'm not giving it any more than 3. It's terrible. And it's not going to be one I'm going to remember.
No, certainly not going to be one to watch again. Even for a screening, just a big fat no.
Yeah. Shame. So, a big recommendation from us 3 then.
I love the fact they couldn't even muster a Dane Clark 5. So that's what we thought. Somewhat underwhelming, unfortunately. Speaking of which, here's Smokey. And picking up on a key theme of the movie, he's going to tell you all about some real-life assassination setups.
Working here, as we do at the House of Hammer, putting these segments together every fortnight can be a funny thing. I'm sure you're all used to the format of the show by now. We rotate hosting duties, the leading of the round table, etc., etc. And of course, every episode, you get a small segment from each host about something to do with the film in question. Well, tangentially at least. We've certainly strained ourselves on more than one occasion trying to find something that will fit. Every now and again, though, upon viewing the latest of Hammer's offerings for us, a little spark occurs in one's brain. Now, I wouldn't dare put words in the mouths of my co-hosts, not unless those words were, "all right," or "are these my feet?" But personally, I always find it more fun when I can include something that I remember or am interested in. Case in point, the subject of today's episode of 5 Days / Paid to Kill, part of the story revolves around someone getting hired for the purposes of assassination. My mind instantly flashed on a story from a few years ago about a member of a metal band being sent to prison for trying to hire a hitman to kill his wife. That then led me to think if there were any other instances of anyone in the public eye being involved in such cases. So, there you go. That's how you get to a segment. Believe it or not though, those kind of stories are few and far between. But what I did find is still pretty damn interesting. Before I go on any further, I'm going to put a massive allegedly in front of these stories. Because regardless of whether they're true or not, I'm not leaving myself, the show, my colleagues, or any representatives here at Relaxed Operations Limited liable to any legal recourse. Okay, you hear that? Allegedly. So, first up, the story I alluded to earlier. Tim Lambesis was and is the lead singer of American metal band As I Lay Dying. I'm guessing a couple of you may have heard of them, while also guessing that the majority of you have not. No matter, Mr. Lambesis performed not only with said band, but also his side project of Austrian Death Machine. a parody band that performs songs all about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yes, really. Anyhow, Tim was arrested in May of 2013 for attempting to hire a hitman to kill his estranged wife. Unbeknownst to him, the quote-unquote hitman he was introduced to was in fact an undercover police detective. Providing the fake killer with images of his missus, her address, the code with which to access her gate, and $1,000 to get him started, while also agreeing to pay an extra $20,000 on the completion of the hit, it soon became clear that hiring someone to do away with the old ball and chain really isn't as simple as it seems. Initially pleading not guilty in court, this was soon swiftly changed to a guilty plea. The evidence was somewhat vast in proving his guilt, as he was then sentenced to 6 years in prison in May of 2014. Come on, Tim, this is not 1984, and you're not Vince Neil. Next we come on to Angelina Jolie. In a scenario that's as close to 5 days as we're going to get, the actress attempted to hire a hitman when she was just 22, and the target was herself. Being from a somewhat tempestuous home life, and by this point with a worrying drug habit, Angelina decided she had more than had enough. Not wanting to put any guilt on her family by committing suicide, the idea of having someone murder her seemed to appeal more. She even got as far as contacting the assassin, and had been removing cash from her accounts in increments so as not to cause any suspicion. Remarkably, it wasn't Jolie who had a change of heart, but the hitman, who persuaded her to take 2 months to think. If she was sure after this time, then she could get back in touch. Thankfully enough had changed in that time to persuade Angelina that the gun for hire wasn't contacted again. And finally, we come to the story of 37-year-old Danielle Dana Lehman. Not someone in the public eye as such, but someone who bears mentioning, if only for the inventiveness of her stupidity. Danielle attached a plot to murder her husband by advertising on Craigslist. Stupid thing number 1 right there. Stupid thing number 2 was not only did she not advertise for a professional killer to bump off dear hubby, she placed the ad for an actor instead. Reading as a 10-day gig, looking for talent, 30 to 45 years old, doesn't have to be a professional actor. Required, creative, outgoing, friendly, positive personality, boldness and bravery. Some stunts may seem risky, although they are completely safe. An unnamed actor responded to the advert, but instantly knew something was wrong. Not only when he was presented with the scenario that his duty was to act as being a taxi driver, picking up Danielle's husband every day, and to provide him with poison coffee, as if that wasn't enough. But criminal mastermind Lehman also had a PowerPoint presentation outlining exactly how the murder would work. The actor, very sensibly, contacted the police and she was promptly arrested. However, she was only sentenced to 3 years because, according to the judge, she did not go far enough for it to be classed as attempted murder. Righto, good to know. A little cautionary tale there, I think. Anyone ever asks you back to theirs for a coffee and they whip out their PowerPoint, I think you'd better run.
Well, that's about it. Again. But before we climb back into our cocoons for another fortnight, just a quick reminder to give us a rating and indeed a review on your podcatcher of choice. It won't be long before we start to get to the Draculas and the Frankensteins and the omnibuses. So what better way to help raise the profile of the podcast and publicly declare that you were here from the very beginning for the sporting loves and the river patrols. Also, you can follow us on the socials at Twitter and Instagram at HouseHammerPod. Should you want to claim your place alongside the Nigerian princes and cryptocurrency enthusiasts of the world, you can drop us an email. Address your ramblings and attachments to scream@houseofhammerpodcast.com. If that one thing that's missing from your bathroom is the House of Hammer bath mat, or perhaps you're already looking forward to the summer and can't wait to hit the beach and show off your guns in a House of Hammer vest, well, for both of those scenarios and a host of other fictional situations, our online store has the merchandise you need. Just have a gleg at the show notes to find the URL that will whisk you off to merch heaven. And finally, should you want more of us, you can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/househammerpod. For as little as £1 a month, you get extra perks and benefits, and for a little bit more, there's a bunch of extra content to charm your earholes. Coming very soon to the Hidden Room tier is us discussing the first Hammer House of Horror TV episode. We'll be making our way through all of them, and those episodes will be exclusive to Patreon. The first episode has a lot of gratuitous nudity and Grandad from Only Fools and Horses. Those are two separate things, I should stress. Anyway, that's enough of this. Until next time, it's goodbye from me, Ben Taylorson.
From me, Smokey.
And from me, Kev Moore.
And as ever, we look forward to welcoming you back next time, when we're dealing with lions. Lots of them. Not the big pussycats with a fondness for zebra meat. No, the lion family. The world's craziest family, according to the tagline. Narrowly taking the title from the Manson family, I assume. Anyway, the lions have a problematic landlord, and then they're off to Paris, and we'll be going with them. So grab some onions and a beret, and until next time, au revoir.